students, as a part of engineering chemistry, today I am going to discuss one of the topic which is a part of the first unit of engineering chemistry, that is types of orbitals or types of atomic orbitals. Orbitals are also called as atomic orbitals. But before going to discuss the types of orbitals and the types of atomic orbitals or types of atomic orbitals, first let me throw some light on some of the basics related to the orbitals. So whatever the basics about which I am going to explain to you are familiar basics, but in order to recap, I am going to explain them again, that's it. They are not new for you, right? Just I will go fast. So our topic is actually the types of orbitals. So I will go faster by explaining the basics. So let us start with an atom, right? So what is an atom? It is the fundamental particle present in an element which is responsible for the chemical reactivity of the element. Atom comprise of three species. The one is electrons, which are negatively charged species present in an atom. Next, protons, which are positively charged species present in an atom. Next, neutrons do not possess any sort of charge. Next, we have to discuss about the nucleus. The cluster of protons and neutrons are located at the center of the atom. That cluster is called as nucleus. So coming to the next one, orbit. So the two other names are also associated with the orbit. Orbit is also called as shell or energy level. What is the orbit? It is a circular path in which an electron revolves around the nucleus. So coming to our actual topic, that is orbital. Now what is the orbital? What is orbital? The region where the probability of finding the electrons is maximum is called as orbital. Now, types of orbitals. So we are familiar. There are four types of orbitals. The one is S orbital, P orbital, D orbital, and F orbital. So these are the four types of the orbitals. So first let us discuss about S orbital. Right. So first let us discuss about S orbital. S orbital is spherical in shape, students. S orbital is spherical in shape. And since it is spherical in shape, it is non-directional. We cannot say the direction of it. It is non-directional. As it is non-directional, the number of nodal planes present in the S orbital is 0. Now, what do you mean by nodal plane? Nodal plane. What do you mean by nodal plane? What do you mean by nodal plane? The plane where the probability of finding the electrons is 0. The plane where the probability of finding the electrons is 0 is called as the nodal plane. And in the case of S orbital, the nodal plane is 0. Just think of it. Why? What could be the reason why the nodal plane is 0 in this particular S orbital, which is spherical in shape? This is because as it is spherical in shape, we cannot say that we can find the electrons or we cannot find the electrons at the top. We can find the electrons or we cannot find the electrons at the bottom. We can find the electrons or we cannot find the electrons on the right side of this. We can find the electrons or not find the electrons on the left side of this. We cannot say that, right? So in order to simplify the things, I am going to consider the live example with you, right? For example, let us consider this ball, right? This ball. Now, this ball is spherical. So just like the S orbital. So in this ball, so it is filled with the air, right? So without the air, the ball is not possible, right? Now, in this ball, can you say that where the air content is less, where the air content is more? At the top, it is less or more. At the bottom, it is less or more. on the right side it is less or more, on the left side it is less or more. We cannot say that. We cannot say that the probability of finding the electrons, of finding the air in this particular ball is maximum at the top, maximum at the bottom or right side, on the left side, or minimum at the top or minimum at the bottom or on the right side or the left side. We cannot say that, right? So in the similar fashion, we cannot say that the electrons are more or less on the top of the s orbital. The electrons are more or less less at the bottom. The electrons are more or less on the right side of this. The electrons are more or less on the left side of it, right? We cannot say that. So that is the reason the number of nodal plane in the s orbital is 0, students. It is 0. Now we are going to discuss about the second orbital. What is that? It is p orbital. So what is the p orbital and what is the direction of it? We are going to discuss in a moment. So please give me a moment. Right. So p orbital. P orbital is classified into two types. So it is of two types, or three types. Sorry, it is of three types. One is px, py, and pz. It is of three types: px, py, and pz. Right? Px, py, and pz, and it is unidirectional. Unlike the s orbital, which was non-directional, this particular p orbital is unidirectional. It is unidirectional. So what is the first one, student? Px. Second one is py, and third one is pz. Pz. So it is very simple to draw the structures of the p orbitals, that is px, py, and pz. So what could be the px? Px is very simple. So what you do is just write down any of the two axes or three axes. Let us take the three axes. Let us say that this is x-axis, this is y-axis, and z-axis. So as we have the three, let us draw the three. As we have the three p orbitals, let us draw the three axes. 3 times, 3 axes 3 times. Same x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. X-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. Z-axis, right. Now what is px? It is very simple, student. Px, what is px? Right. So when we are talking of the px, the lobe is located because it is a dumbbell shaped. P orbital is dumbbell shaped, and since the p orbital is dumbbell shaped, only single dumbbell is present in the p orbital. Single dumbbell is present in the p orbital, and as it is px, that dumbbell is located at the x-axis. Dumbbell. If the dumbbell is located at the x-axis, then it is px. If the dumbbell is located at the y-axis, then it is py. If the dumbbell is located on the z-axis, it will be around this axis only. So when the dumbbell is located along the z-axis, then it is pz. Right? So what do you mean by the dumbbell? That is, the lobe is located on the x-axis, on the y-axis in the case of Py, and the z-axis in the case of Pz. What do you mean by the location of the lobe? So location of the lobe means that the electrons are sitting in that particular axis. Electrons are sitting in that particular axis. That is, the probability of finding the electrons is maximum in that particular axis. In the case of Px, it is on the x-axis. In the case of Py, it is on the y-axis. And in the case of Pz, it is on the z-axis. Right? So, Px, the electrons are located along the x-axis. Py, the electrons are located along the y-axis. In the Pz, electrons are located along the z-axis. Right? Now, what is the nodal plane in this? Nodal plane. So we can have the nodal plane, right? So what is the nodal plane? If here we are finding the electrons, that is on the x-axis, then we cannot find the electrons at y and z. In the y and z axis, we cannot find the electrons, right? And in the case of Py, we can find the electrons along the y axis, and we cannot find the electrons in the x and z axis. And in the case of Pz, we are finding the electrons along the z axis. We cannot find the electrons in the xy. So the number of nodal planes in the Px, Py and Pz respectively is 1. Only one nodal plane. Nodal plane is 1 in the case of Px. Nodal plane is 1 in the case of Py, that is xz. Nodal plane is 1 in the case of Pz, that is xy. So this is about the p orbital, students, right? Now let us talk about the third type of the orbital or atomic orbital. Don't be confused with the orbital or atomic orbital. Both are one and the same. Orbitals or atomic orbitals, both are one and same. So now we are going to discuss about the d orbital, students. Any guesses? The d orbital is double dumbbell in shape. Double dumbbell in shape. That is, the electrons will be located in between the two axes or along the two axes. In between the two axes or along the two axes. You will come to know while explaining the structures of these d orbitals. D orbitals. So coming to the d orbitals. D orbitals. Already said. These are double dumbbell in shape. Double dumbbell in shape. And the next one is, these are also directional. These are also directional, right? These are also directional. And these d orbitals are classified into 5 types, students. These d orbitals are classified into 5 types. The one is dxy. The second one is dyz. And third one is dxz. Fourth one is dx square minus y square, and the last one is dz square. Dz square. So these are the 5 d orbitals, and these 5 d orbitals are double dumbbell in shape. And these 5 d orbitals are further categorized or classified into 2 types, students. 2 types. The first 3 comes under the category of T2G set of d orbitals. T2G set of d orbitals. T2G set of d orbitals. And the next two, that is dx square minus y square and dz square, comes under the category of EG set of d orbitals. EG set of d orbitals. Now T2G, what do you mean by T2G? T stands for triply. G stands for degenerate or gerate, we can say that. Degenerate or gerate. So triply degenerated. So these are 3. Triply Degenerated means what? The energy associated with these three, all these three, dxy, dyz and dxz, all is one and same. The energy associated with these three is one and same. And EG stands for doubly degenerated or doubly gerated. Gerated is also degenerated. So these are dx square minus y square and dg square, right? Now we have to discuss what are the T2G and EG set of d orbitals. You might be knowing very easily the shapes or the types of the d orbitals. It is very easy because it is a part of your intermediate. But whatever I am going to explain now is not a part of intermediate. It is a very new topic for you. That is T2G and EG. You never come across about the T2G and EG set of d orbitals. Right? Now let us define these two categories which are a part of the d orbitals. The first one is T2G set of d orbitals. What are T2G d orbitals? The d orbitals in which the lobes are located in between the axes. The d orbitals in which the lobes are located in between the axes are called as T2G set of d orbitals. On the other hand, the next category, that is EG set of d orbitals, means these are the d orbitals in which electrons are located along the axis. Along the axis. So electrons are located in between the axis means what? Electrons are located in between the axis means the lobes will be in between the axis. So in this case, the electrons will be along the axis. The lobes are located in between the axis, and in this case, lobes are located along the axis. So lobes are located in between the axis means electrons. What do you mean by lobes? Already I discussed with you that lobes represent the location of electrons. That is, in the case of T2G set of d orbitals, the electrons are located in between the axis, whereas in the case of EG set of d orbitals, the electrons are located along the axis. So now let us see the shapes of these 5 d orbitals. Shapes of these 5 d orbitals. So whatever the shapes I am going to give for these 5 d orbitals is very simplest form of the shapes of the d orbitals. Will not come across in any other textbooks, in the other textbooks as well. But I am going to, in order to simplify, I am giving the shapes of the d orbitals in the simplified manner, and if you draw these shapes in the exam, you will get the full marks, no doubt in that. So dxy means, just what you need to do is, first one is dxy, right? So what you need to do is, one axis is x-axis, another axis is y-axis. That's it in dxy. In the case of dyz, just consider the two axes. The one axis is y-axis, another axis is z-axis. In the case of dxz, consider one is x-axis, so don't be in confusion. X-axis, another one is z-axis. Now, already I have said, in the case of T2G set of d orbitals, the electrons or lobes are located in between the axes. Lobes are located in between the axes. So accordingly, lobes are located in between the x and y axis. So if the lobes are located in between the x and y axis, then it is dxy. If the lobes are located in between the y and z axis, then it is dyz. If the lobes are located in between the x and z axis, then it is dxz, students. Dxz. We are talking only about the T2G set of these or the T2G set of d orbitals. Right? Now, what are the nodal planes? How many nodal planes? Obviously, two nodal planes. Because two are over, so the two nodal planes will be there. What are those? One is xy is finished, so yz and xz. So yz and xz is a nodal plane for this. So nodal plane is 2. And what are the nodal planes in the case of dyz? Xz and xy. Nodal plane is 2. In the case of dxz, the remaining, what are there? Xy and yz. These are the nodal planes. Nodal planes are 2. So this is about the T2G set of d orbitals, and do remember, students, because based upon the concept of the d orbitals, or based upon the location of the electrons in the d orbitals, only we can clearly understand the concept of crystal field theory. And that particular crystal field theory is very, very important from the knowledge point of view as well as from the exam point of view. So, to remember, students, in the case of T2G set of d orbitals, as the lobes are located in between the axes, it means that electrons are located in between the axes. Please make a note of it. In the case of T2G set of d orbitals, what is happening? The lobes are located in between the axes means, what does it mean? Lobes are located in between the axes means electrons are sitting or located in between the axis. In the case of dxy, in between the x and y axis. In the case of yz, in between the y and z axis. In the case of xz, in between the x and z axis. And the number of nodal planes in all the three T2G set of d orbitals is one and the same, that is 2 if it is dxy. The remaining x, z and yz are the nodal planes. If it is dyz, xy and xz are the nodal planes. And if it is dxz, xy and yz are the nodal planes. So now we are going to discuss about EG set of d orbitals. What I have discussed with you, in the EG set of d orbitals, the lobes are located along the axis. Lobes are located along the axis means what? Electrons are sitting along the axis in the case of EG set of d orbitals. And what are those EG set of d orbitals? The one is dx square minus y square and dz square. So now let us see the shapes of these two. So dx square minus y square. So dx square minus y square. So dx square minus y square means what? One axis is x-axis, students, and another axis is y-axis. So x-axis and y-axis. Right? Okay. Now, in the case of EG, because dx square minus y square is what? It is EG set of d orbital. Since it is EG set of d orbital, the lobes are located along the axis. Lobes are located along the axis. Lobes are located along the axis. Now, are there any nodal planes in this? We cannot designate the nodal planes, but there are two nodal planes. So, one is here passing like this. Another nodal plane is passing like this. So, there are two nodal planes, students. In all the 5d orbitals, number of nodal planes are 2 only. Do remember this. So nodal planes in the case of dx square minus y square is also 2, just like the T2g set of d orbital. And coming to the last one, that is, what is the last d orbital, student? dz square. So in the case of dz square, dz, so dz means just consider only one axis, that is z axis. So in the case of dz square, 2 lobes are located along the z axis only. Z axis only. Right? So one lobe of dz square. Now coming to the second lobe will be like this, students. This is one half of the lobe and this is the second half of the lobe. And this second half of the lobe is at the back side. It is not visible to us. It is like 3D. It is not visible to us, right? So since it is not visible to us, and how it is looking? So since it is not visible to us, how it is looking in the shape? The shape of this dz square can be correlated with one of the type of the orbital or atomic orbital. What is that, student? That is s orbital. Because s orbital is spherical in shape. Now here it is also taking the shape of spherical. That is, it is also spherical in shape. Since it is spherical in shape, we can correlate the structure of dz square with the shape of s orbital. Shape of s orbital. Now, what are the nodal planes? How many nodal planes are present in the s orbital? 0. As in the case of s orbital, the number of nodal plane is 0, and as the dz square shape can be correlated with the s orbital shape, we can say that the number of nodal plane in the dz square is also 0. So the number of nodal planes in dz square is 0, just like the s orbital, because it is taking the shape of the s orbital, spherical in shape. It is looking spherical. So in the case of p orbital, students, the number of nodal planes in all the 3 is 1, but in the case of the d orbitals, the first 4, in the first 4, that is dxy, dyz, dxz, dx square minus y square, the number of nodal planes are 2, but whereas in the case of dz square it is 0, because the shape of the dz square can be correlated with the shape of s orbital, and as the s orbital is spherical in shape and as the number of nodal planes in the s orbital is 0, definitely we can say that the number of nodal planes in dz square is also 0. Now let us talk about the last type of orbital or atomic orbital, that is f orbitals, student. That is f orbitals. F orbital. The shape of the f orbital is leaf shape, student. So since the f orbitals are taking the shape of the leaf, we cannot draw the shapes of these f orbitals on the board. It is very complex. It is very, very complex. But we can designate the d orbitals. We can designate the d orbitals. So designate the f orbitals, and the number of f orbitals are 7. So number of s orbital is 1, number of p orbitals are 3, number of d orbitals are 5, number of f orbitals are 7. So what are those? It is very simple to remember what are those 7 f orbital, and do remember in the exam also you did not to draw the shapes of the f orbital. No one will ask to draw the shapes of the f orbital. They know how complex the shapes of f orbitals are. Right? So first one is fx cube. Fx cube. Second one is fy cube. Next one is fz cube. Next one is fx. What are the remaining? Y square minus z square. Next fy. What are the remaining? Y is over x square minus z square. Next z, fz. What are the remaining? X square minus y square. And the last one is fxyz. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So these are the 7 f orbitals, students. Fx cube, don't be confused. First cube, fy cube, fz cube. Next normal fx. What are the remaining after the x? Y and z. So y square minus z square. Next y. What are the remaining? X and z. X square minus z square. And z, fz. What are the remaining? X and y. Accordingly, x square minus y square. And the last one is fxyz. So this is about the types of the orbitals or atomic orbitals, students. And this concept of orbitals or atomic orbitals is very important from the examination point of view. Not only that, there is a concept named crystal field theory. And without these basics of the orbitals or the types of atomic orbitals, you cannot attempt an answer related to the crystal field theory. You cannot understand anything without the knowledge of orbitals or atomic orbitals. So please keep in the mind and read this. Right? I hope you understood this particular video. Thanks for watching.